I know almost everybody here has had some sort of good news, and something good that has happened in their store this last year. Some of it, Chris is always like, tell me, they don't tell me what that is. I can't get it in the paper. So when we did our Project 365 last year, if everybody remember that, we did one business-related story for every single calendar day for 2011, Christmas, Saturday, Sunday, Easter, the whole 9 yards. People thought we were nuts. You're never going to get enough stuff. There's no way you're going to get in all the stories. It'll never happen. Well, I think 480 stories later for 365 days, actually we did do it, so we actually exceeded our goal. There's a lot of good things going on in our individual businesses. We got to be better at telling people about it, celebrate it a little bit. You get a new customer, you get a new hire, you get a new contract, you got a new service. You got to get that out there and let them use, Karina's been great. She's doing our website, and Bruce is working on the Facebook page. We got to use those things to the maximum ability. Make sure that those things are out there so people can see the good things that are going on. I'm not talking about hiding bad things. Bad things are still going to happen, and you know what? Well, at least we can talk about how we're dealing with the bad things if and when they happen. But let's celebrate the good stuff a little bit more. So if anybody has any help wanting to do that, wants to work on some press releases, call me, call Chris. We'd be glad to help you put something together and get that information out. Formal marketing of available spaces. There we go. Talking about how do we get out there and really make sure we've got a good set of information and we're getting it out in front of the right people. Easier said than done, especially in this economy. We got to go be a little bit more formal, a little more aggressive in getting that information out to other folks.
Neil,
yes?
when a business leaves, do you know why they left? Quiznos comes to mind right away, because I love that.
Yep, Quiznos was, we had a couple, if anyone was familiar, right across the street from City Hall in the Cannery building there, was, used to be Quiznos, national tenant. Obviously, at least from a national standpoint, very well capitalized. You always hear some rumor and then you hear some fact, so we think, there's a little bit in between. Our understanding is in terms of their customer base was actually their numbers should have been enough to operate there successfully. There were some internal management issues, I think, in terms of just getting things maybe not being handled in a fashion that could have kept them busy. It was going to be marginal. It was going to be kind of a tough sell for them. One thing we kind of look at in terms of they didn't have a sign that actually projected out. It was a flat sign, so people had a tough time seeing them. So there's a lot of small operational factors I think that went into them not going. I think the tenant or the owner of the building, at that time was DSI. I think they actually worked with them on their lease rate and were being pretty flexible with them. But at some point, because it was a franchise, the national guys said, yeah, this isn't working. So they shut it down. So it was actually a local decision to not go there. The other, certainly in terms of, because you look at that and you think, okay, well, McDonald's just built a brand new place right there. So there's another national food guy. So, okay, yeah, they have a drive-through, but, so obviously there's traffic, there's customers, the number of people going by, there must be enough to make that work. So, our understanding is it was largely more of an internal operational issue that was just not allowing them to cash flow sufficiently to make it go. Fewer but expanded events. So we kind of the list of events we put up earlier. We've trimmed a couple off those just due to staffing concerns and volunteer hours. But we've also looked at kind of growing and expanding some of the other events. One thing we're kind of excited about this year, I kind of went over and grabbed Bruce at the diner and said, what night were you guys doing your car cruise? And they said, well, we're looking at Thursday, August 9th. I said, well, working with our police department, and we're actually trying to figure out a night to do National Night Out. In the past, we had done those at 2 different parks in Sun Prairie and had, a large coordinated event. The folks who had done that were both kind of retiring and leaving the city, so we were kind of looking at a way to kind of consolidate that and put that in with another event. Why not do it the same night as that we have if we do it downtown and actually do it with an existing event that's already on? So we're excited about that. There's going to be, so that evening, we'll certainly be able to close Market Street. We're going to have all the cars lined up there and available to view. We're also going to have all the public safety vehicles that are going to be parked out for people to come check those out, come see the squad car, hopefully in a good light, not in a bad light. Fire trucks, all the kind of equipment actually to interact with city staff and officials hopefully in more of a fun atmosphere. So we think that's going to be a great combination and an example of kind of we're kind of making the things we've got a little bit bigger and a little bit better without kind of leveraging our other things too much. Availability of small business resources. I think we had mentioned, certainly in terms of the university, certainly in terms of getting folks in touch with the right people at MATC for workforce development. Getting them in touch with anybody who has, business mentors who've maybe been there. Mike's an example. Did a lot of printing and graphics work back in the day, and he still dabbles in it and does a lot of great stuff for the bid these days. But he's actually getting out and helping some of the younger students and other things through our 175 effort that we're doing here at the city, and actually reaching out and getting that more of a business mentorship, saying, you know what, the artwork is only one part of it. There's a business side of it that you need to be aware of. What are the client's needs? What are those kinds of things? So in that way, we're kind of trying to foster some more of those relationships. And the last one is maintain and enhance the value to bid members. I think a lot of times there's, we always we have a tendency because they attract so much attention and they do so much things and they do attract so many people, is the events kind of dominate what seems like they're certainly in the news and the agenda. That's a great thing, and we've got it's great branding for us, and it's great advertising for our community. But how do we build on that? And I think part of it is going into how do we get more people into the stores and spending money? Not just coming downtown, that's great. We're all glad they're here, and glad they saw us. Now how do we come up with some ideas to actually get them into the store and get them reaching for their wallet? How do we do that? And I think collectively, somebody's got probably some pretty good ideas on how to make that happen. So. With that, we're either going up or we're going down. It's halftime, right? We have to decide which way to go. And hopefully,
you talk about the bike competition this fall?
Oh, absolutely. I guess one of the newer events that has actually come to downtown. Anyone familiar with the cyclocross race in Sun Prairie? A couple guys. If anybody's familiar with that race, that is, it's kind of tough to explain to somebody who's not out there. It's like, okay, make the weather as cold and rainy and weird and nasty as you can, and get largely a 10-speed bike that you would see normally, but modified and kind of adapted here and there. And you go ride on every surface that you can out at Angel Park, and you compete in your race. Oh, and by the way, you do it from folks coming from all over the world to come do it. One neat thing we learned 2 years ago when they came here was they asked me to come down and meet this individual. And I just, some guy, some French name. Okay, some guy, so he's from out of town. Okay, well, go see him and welcome him to town, do the standard thing. Well, come to find out, this is the same gentleman that basically, until he blesses the course, the Tour de France doesn't start. He's the same guy who certified our course here in Angel Park. He walks out, measures everything, goes out there and says, all right, good to go. Good luck. Happy racing. So this is a big deal. This has been going on for several years here in town. It's kind of always under the radar, number one. They would always everybody would stay in Madison. They would have their pre-race party in Madison. One of their sponsors was over there to have it here. They'd come out, they'd race, and then they all leave. They go out the next day, they come out and race, and then they all leave. So last year, our tourism commission actually stepped up and did a sponsorship for the pre-race party on Friday night when everybody gets their race numbers and so forth. Wisconsin distributors stepped up and actually provided New Belgium beer samples for tasting for the whole night, which was fantastic. It was just a really great event. It was cold. The night it was a September night, but it was in the 40s. It was low 40s. It was cold for September. And they had the torches kind of out on the deck, and everybody stuck around. Hardly anybody went home for that Friday night. So everybody was in the restaurant here eating. It was just a great event. So now we're like, okay, now we got them to stay here for Friday night. Now how do we get them to stay here for Saturday night too? So we're kind of looking at how do we, take advantage of, like I said, a field of probably 300 racers over 2 days. With family and fans, there's probably 2,500 to 3,000 people or more that come in for these races. How do we get them in town? And again, there we go, guys. We've got them here. How do we get them into the stores while they're here? So we've got a captured audience for 2 days. How do we go through? And that's a great event. It's a great use for Angel Park. I've actually had, in terms of the slow reduction of midget races that's kind of happened over the last couple of years. There's a variety of reasons for that. One of the things that was probably most interesting is I've actually had people call me and ask why they weren't running on Sunday night. I've had voice messages like come in the office like, it's awful quiet on down Sunday night. How come there's no races going on? Everybody's so used to hearing those at Sunday night. But going forward, looking at the long-term future for that facility and that property is probably not going to be midget racing. Hopefully it always stays a component of Angel Park, and it's a great piece of history for Sun Prairie, and we want to keep doing that. But I think we look at events like the cyclocross race. That is something that they couldn't do in Madison, so they came out here. The Mounds The Dog Fest, another thing, they couldn't find a place in Madison. They found they came out to Angel Park. Again, brings so many people out to the community and brings them right downtown. So how do we really take advantage of some of those other types of events? And we're excited that we've gotten those two there. You know, how do we go forward and maybe try to identify some new things and working with Angel Park to identify some new things to come out there and that can actually bring more people, again, hopefully with their hand on their wallet, ready to spend some money in town.
And those people are in town and they are shopping downtown. Some of them are, you see them on their bicycles going around
Right.
town. They're checking out their bikes. So we put up welcome signs last year. I tried to hit every store. So
If you see an inordinate amount of spandex riding around town, it's because the race is probably in town that weekend. So, any questions?
You brought up a good issue as far as with Woodlands and being kind of out their way and trying to attract people towards downtown. What impact, if any, would a transportation have on that? Whether it just be a type of back and forth from downtown to outer businesses on the west side, or?
I think certainly that's one. I think that certainly would be. I think in a long-term plan, certainly take a look at that. We kind of talked about the barbell. So we've got all this development on the west side. We've got this great redevelopment spot downtown. We're working on getting Main Street kind of up to snuff where we'd like to see it go. We kind of want to still see that as a viable commercial corridor. I think we kind of start off at the base level. It maybe kind of starts off in terms of taking a look at things like making sure there's advertising available for downtown businesses in those stores. Most of them, we've kind of pitched them on that idea. They're fine with that. They're lobbying, but you have to make something that's visible. They get 50,000 things on a board. It doesn't stand out. So how do you actually make it so it's something that is useful? So you actually have someone there reminding people that, hey, there's a downtown 2 miles that way. The other thing I think we've kind of talked a little bit about, I know staff has looked at, is some good signage, directional signage in town. A lot of people who are coming will probably be, and I said that 90 plus trade area, mile trade area, those folks are coming, a lot of them will have cars and go. In terms of getting residents in town back and forth, I think that's at some point that's probably something that needs to be looked at and analyzed. And it's probably a larger issue in terms of transportation in general, in terms of getting people where they need to work, where they need to shop. And certainly that's within Sun Prairie, but also as part of the greater regional effort as well.